Hello, everybody, and welcome to the July 30th Trips and Traps. I'm Andy Serling. He's Richard Migliore.
I really like the races we have to look at today, too. Some of them concerning 2-year-olds, and I think we're going to be able to make the point. Some should improve, and some come from trainers that you question whether they'll improve even with racing. But we'll talk about it. It's kind of cool to watch.
Yeah, no, I think we've got some good examples of the first week at Saratoga, 4-day week, and we'll start right out with a 2-year-old race, the first one of the meet. These were New York breds, and we're going to talk about the 2 flatware, a firster for Mark Hennig, a trainer, I think that's what Richie's alluding to, whose horses sometimes need a start or two.
I think this horse has a lot of ability. You could see when he broke, he wasn't sure about having to go forward, not go forward. I'm sorry, excuse me. And kind of took her a little while to find her stride. Now she gets to running, but now I think she runs up into the kickback, and the dirt starts to hit her a little bit more, and she's going to back off again, almost running with the emergency brake on.
Yeah, and the other thing is I like about her is she really is running in spots, because there are times when she's moving forward. Obviously, she had the bad break, and she's sort of dropping back in the pack right now around the turn. An easy horse to see, obviously, a gray, the light blue silks, and she has a light blue hat. The horse outside of her has the white hat. So keep in mind, you want to keep looking for that light blue hat. And I like that she ran enough at different times. And, Richie, she never gives up. In fact, is running again at the end of the race.
Well, at the midpoint of the turn, you thought she was going to be last, possibly, and then she kind of got running again. And the horse, actually, that comes up outside of her kind of forced her hand back inside. That horse is also going to have to steady and come out and makes another run. But I like the way Flatware, like you said, came on again, ran on, and then watching her on the gallop out, she actually really galloped out when she got a lot of space. So it tells me she was a bit intimidated inside of horses. She probably never been in this position before, because you can't replicate a race situation in the morning. Obviously, you can work a horse behind horses or inside, but not with that many horses and that much traffic.
Well, no, I think this was just a great illustration of some of the kind of things you want to look for in these 2-year-old races. Horses that run a little bit in spots, but it might not be obvious by the order of finish. Now, we're going to go to some other horses on the grass as we go to Saturday's card, and this is the second race on Saturday. And this is a race that was dictated by the slow pace. We're going to start out, and we're going to show the head on and talk about the 5 Bam Bam and the 7 Speeding Comet. Bam Bam might have been the best horse in the race. Speeding Comet had a trip that never gave him a fair chance, Richie.
No, not at all, and just an unfortunate thing. And when you have these 1-mile inner turf races, there's a short run to the turn. The turns are tight. It is a 7-furlong turf course, and you have to be able to work out a trip. And when they go this slow, the field stays fairly bunched up, and it limits your options.
And it feels like the 5 didn't get a chance to get out cleanly, and Jose Lozcano may have had an issue with him right after that. You can see the horse is resenting being taken back, as he did in his last turf start at Santa Anita. Speeding Comet, Javier Castellano just caught behind a horse that kind of took him out of the race a little bit, too.
Yeah, that was Majestico kind of bearing out into the turn there. Bam Bam with Jose Lozcano honestly looks like a jockey's nightmare. He just has a difficult mouth. You take a little too much hold and he throws his head in your face. He doesn't look like he's got power steering, so to speak, and that's difficult. It can make it really hard on a rider. My question to you is, this was a mile slow pace. Obviously, if he had gotten away cleaner, he would have been better served to be up close to the pace and allow him to run freely. Do you think this would be an interesting horse on a turn back, maybe 5.5, where he gets completely outfooted?
Well, the problem was he was coming out of a 6.5 race where he got ranked in the same way, and I think Beaumont was hoping maybe in the stretch out. I wonder if they thought going into it that he would have more speed, and maybe he got unlucky at the break. I'm not quite sure. I mean, it would be nice if he was in a 5.5 race and they went so fast, as you say, he could just settle the back of the pack. I mean, is he a kind of horse, and you can only answer this from a rider's perspective, that you just have to let the horse go and not get in his mouth?
Yeah, just let the reins slide between your fingers and let him go to the lead. He'd probably settle on the lead. It's remarkable to me, Andy, that this horse was able to pull him up in a position after being as rank as he was and stayed on as well as he did. He had every right to pass out.
I actually think he ran far and away the best race, because not only are they walking on the front end, but the horses that run 1-2 are that horse, and they both save all the ground the whole way and get those very easy, comfortable trips where they're always in a rhythm. And he was never in a rhythm. He was always wide. He was always playing catch-up. And in fairness to him, he never really stopped running in here. Speeding Comet never had a chance.
No, he never had a chance after getting carried out on the turn and then trying to find his way back in, swinging out later, and actually finished with good interest, considering they were really coming home. When the leaders come home in faster than 23 seconds, what kind of horse do you have to be to catch them? It's impossible.
You have absolutely no chance. It is actually impossible. And the fact that they're gaining ground at the end is remarkable. And Bam Bam doing it when he was outside the whole way, and the first and second horses saved every bit of ground, is a real tribute to him. But as you say, the problem with Bam Bam is, because of his mouth and the way he seems to react, what is Bill Mott going to be able to do with him, and what is a rider going to be able to do with him to get him to settle? And you're saying, getting a turf strip, they go fast up, he gets lost in it, and hopefully he gets lucky and he can make a run. Maybe that's the best alternative. I don't know.
It's one of two things. Either that or put him on the lead going long, and this way you don't have to fight with him. And a lot of horses, once they clear off a length or two, they'll rate themselves. They'll wait on their competition. Horses are a herd animal. They like to be with the herd. I've seen a lot of rank horses. If you put them on the lead, they actually rate themselves.
Yeah, I would rather see this horse going longer and be on the lead. We'll see if they can make it happen. He's clearly a horse that has some talent. We've got 2-year-old maidens in the 5th race on Saturday's card, and that's July 25th. And we're going to start out with a head-on, and this horse, this is a crazy horse. I feel bad for Jose Ortiz having to ride this horse because he's a little scary.
Well, he's very green, and you can see instantly he wants to run out away from the field. He doesn't want to be around the other horses. And even down the backstretch, you can see Jose's trying to bring him back down to the field, and he gets him closer, and then he wants to run away from them again. And this is where I was getting at before we started watching races. You have some trainers that really excel with first-time starters, and they're very professional. And this is a Rick Violet trainee. Rick's horses are always so well-schooled, and usually like older horses their first start. This horse is running as green as any horse I've ever seen from Rick Violet, and it's not for lack of schooling. Is it a horse that's just not going to get it?
No, I think that's a very, very interesting point. And I think, Richie, that a lot of that will be told by when and if he shows up next. Because I think if you see this horse again 3-4 weeks into this meet or some point in this meet, that you can think there's a very good chance that Rick figured out there was some issue with him, whether it was equipment, whether it was him, whatever it was, that he's corrected. Because I don't know. I didn't talk to Rick, but maybe he had to surprise Rick a little bit the way he acted. He certainly didn't want to send a horse out who's going to behave like this. But this horse has ability because he ran in spots.
Oh, he really has ability, and he definitely ran in spots. After that break, veering to the outside, kind of went to get in the race, and then when he got to the turn, he didn't corner well. The kickback. Obviously, racing should help him, but I question how much more because, again, Rick Violet really, really excels with young horses and first-time starters. Obviously, this horse is going to need blinkers at some stage because he is horse shy. He wants to run away from horses.
And, I mean, I'm not... What can you do to get him to stop doing that? I mean, you can work him in company, but once again, you can't recreate these race situations as you were talking about earlier.
No, exactly. And when you have...
Lugging it there.
Exactly. He's just really kind of all over the place. I obviously, if this was in somebody else's barn, I would say, yeah, he's just green. He'll get a lot better off the experience. The fact that he comes from a barn that is so good with first-time starters makes me question if it's just not his mentality. Maybe he's just not has the mental facility to do that. Some horses never get it, but it'll be interesting to watch him going forward because he can run.
Yeah, no, I think he can. And I'm going to take the optimistic viewpoint that if we see Rick running back relatively soon, we're going to see a different horse. We'll see. I mean, one thing we know with these 2-year-olds, they can and often do act completely differently in their second starts.
Yeah, no doubt, and I'd also like to see blinkers on him.
Well, we'll see if that happens. We'll see what happens with Crosstown Route. Keep an eye on this horse. The 4th race we're going to look at is the 8th race from July 25th. And this one was dominated in the front end by a really cool horse named Plainview. Doesn't even break that sharply. Gets bumped around a little there. We're going to talk about the 3 Todd Glebe, who ends up back in last. We're going to talk about the 4, a Todd Pletcher horse that actually ran pretty well, Zambian Dream. And the 9-horse Market Outlook for Chad Brown, who got completely and totally buried in the stretch. And all of these horses were compromised by dynamics and their lack of early speed and their early position.
Yeah, and the way the field bunched up, and when we show the head-on later on, you'll just see there's just not much space to go anywhere. You got to give Javier Castellano a lot of credit on Zambian Dream for actually trying to bull his way and find a spot, and he's last of all. Well, no, I got 2 beat right now.
Yeah, he's right in front of
right behind him.
Market Outlook's actually in front of them, but I agree. I mean, I like the way Zambian Dream ran. I like a horse that fights his way through traffic. A lot of horses won't do it.
Yeah, no, exactly. And at least when you have a horse that's bold like that, it's like going into battle with someone that's going to fight with you. So it emboldens the jockey somewhat, too. Market Outlook, in jockey parlance, Irad Ortiz ate him.
Yeah.
He had no place to go.
You know, I don't know that he was going anywhere, but I know if you liked him in this race, and he's in a similar spot, maybe one where you think the turf is fair and there's more speed, give him another chance. I'm on the fence about this horse, but there's no question, and you'll see it in the stretch, he gets buried. Zambian Dreams back here. I think Taglib, who doesn't have any real traffic trouble and does save a lot of ground, he probably is the one, though, that ran the best race because he was still able to make a significant run on these horses, doing it moving on the outside. But once again, he got in the clear.
He got in the clear. You know, and then you can make the argument, well, he had to lose some ground getting to the clear. I think the stumble at the start cost him dearly because any position that he could have had went out the window right there. And I think he did really well. And honestly, it's really hard to say, but I think he may have run, out of the three, the best race.
I agree with you. The other thing is we know going in that he could be the best horse in the race. So you know he's pretty good, and you see the race he ran, and it kind of confirms it. The other horses saved more ground. I still, though, this horse Zambian Dream, he hadn't run since last October in Chile. And I like the fight he showed and the fact that he's closing ground in this race that featured the slow pace, relatively slow pace. It wasn't monstrously slow, but they came home in under 6 seconds. We'll show the head-on, and you're going to really see the horse, the red hat, and the whitish silks. That's marked out like he gets buried. Here's Zambian Dream. I think it's cool to watch him fight through.
Oh, no, he really does. I mean, and you can see Javier's making every effort. I'm trying to find a spot. I'm pecking, I'm poking, I'm looking, I'm bumping. I mean, he was in the muck and the mire here trying to find a way. And, you know, here's a guy who'd been leading rider last 2-3 years, Clips Award winner. He could have said, you know what, I'm not going to get myself killed trying to get through here. He was giving everybody 100%. Even though he didn't have a good trip, he gave the bettors their money's worth trying to get the best position, the owner, the trainer. That's what you want to see from riders. And when you see horses bunched up in traffic like that, for people who have never ridden horses in traffic, think about driving on the freeway, and you know there's a guy going slow in the left lane, which is drives me crazy. Get off the rail, right? And then there's other cars bunched up, and you're basically just stymied in traffic, even though you have a lot of car or a lot of horse under you. It's no lane.
There were a lot of situations where I think a horse might have been intimidated or a rider might have not been able to go through those holes. Javier is fighting for it up here. And I'll tell you something, it's easy to say he's one of the top riders in the game because you see his results. But watching riders ride every day, I am very impressed by a lot of the decisions that Javier Castellano makes and his aggression.
I agree all with that. And, it's easy to see when people win, it's easy to go, great ride. There were rides I gave horses that they won that I wasn't proud of, and people said, great ride. And there were rides like this. He was fifth. That I know I gave a horse everything I had, and people said it was a horrible ride because I didn't win. It's not just about the result. There's other things that go on.
No, I agree. And if you give everything like that, you do your best job, and you finish fourth, sometimes that's just the way the cards fall. We're going to go into one more race, and these were 2-year-olds going 1 mile and a 16th on our inner turf course. And we're going to talk about the 9-horse Miracle Girl, who ends up finishing 9th. Now, this was a race that featured a very fast pace that ended up falling apart. And Miracle Girl, Michael Ritvo's a young rider. He's a kid who wants to learn. He got a learning experience here, but with all due respect, and obviously his mother trains this horse, Kathy Ritvo, you're riding for the big time up here. I think you want to get a rider who's riding here more often, has more experience this horse again, because I think Miracle Girl might be able to run a little bit.
I agree with you about her being able to run a little bit, and last night when I was watching this race, I had one idea about it. Then we sat down and we were setting up the show. And I was watching with you, and I kind of got a different idea about it. And I was watching it, and I think this illustrates just what a top and tough jockey colony this is. In another jockey colony, maybe you make this move, and you're going to see Michael Riffo move up inside
This
here.
is a disaster here. You could see this coming right here. I said, oh, boy, this is going to be ugly.
Maybe at another racetrack, you're going to be able to shoot up in there, push that guy out outside of you, get in the clear. That's not going to happen here. These guys ride too tough, too tight, too good to allow someone to shoot up their inside and push them out of the way. So he's just going to run you right up the one horse's hindquarters. And then you had a steady, and when other horses are going forward, now you get completely shuffled back. And now, interestingly enough, when you watch the one horse who hangs in there a long, long ways, you could have just sat quietly in behind the horse and kept following that horse and worked out a sweet trip. And you think about the guys that do that consistently are the guys that are the lead-in riders on this circuit.
No, I think you said it perfectly, Richie. And it's a learning experience. And you don't want to be hard on these guys because he's a young rider and he's trying to learn. And he's going to pick up things from there. And right now he moves to the outside. You're going to see him get caught in traffic and staying around. What I like about the horse is she didn't give up. She made another move, and she already made at least one move after showing real speed early in here. And for a lightly raced horse, she had one prep on the dirt down at Belmont. I like that she had a couple of moves in her, and she didn't get completely intimidated until the stretch. She probably gave up a little bit, and we're not saying she would have won. But you need to be in a situation where the rider can give you the best chance, and as you're saying, this is the big time, man. The purses are big, the horses are good, and the riders are tough.
Yeah, and they're not going to give anything away. No. So when you go to a spot, you have to be certain that you can get to that spot before it gets shut down. And I think that's what happened here. And part of it is, yes, he's a young rider, little experience, and he doesn't have the same familiarity with this group of riders. And you know,
this
that's
turf course as well.
And this turf course as well. And you know what? Just what you're saying, getting back to the horse, Miracle Girl, these are 2-year-olds. When a 2-year-old gets steadied like that, usually game over. The fact that she put in that second run is definitely what points her out.
I agree. And she's going to just look, if you see the finish, a horse that ran ninth. She hasn't run well in 2 starts. We're not saying she's going out and winning a stake in her next start. She's going to run a lot better in her next start because she's going to get a fair trip and she'll learn from the experience. And Michael Riffo is going to learn from the experience as well.
Absolutely.
But right now, we're trying to win at Saratoga. We've got a lot of racing left to come here. We got a lot of trips to look at. We can always use your help. It's Trips and Traps at NYRANK.com.